You know, there are all sorts of Japanese folks right now sitting across from each other. They're enjoying a little sushi. They're pouring a little sake for each other. They're discussing things like the latest news, the current events, the culture, things like...
Those kids in the crazy clothes?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, it sounds a lot like what American parents would say. Well, Peyton Rosenzweig tells us that Japanese youth and their favored fashion designers are making huge ripples all around the world. Here she is with the taste of culture.
Sometimes when we think of Japanese fashion, beautiful and traditional kimono come to mind. But Tokyo is one of the centers of cutting-edge fashion. Just watch this.
Tokyo is one of the world's fashion capitals, and the city's youth are famously fashion-obsessed. Each area of Tokyo has its own distinct street fashions. Shibuya is where young people, especially high schoolers, come to shop and play. And the fashion heart of Shibuya is this building, a tightly packed maze of small, trend-setting boutiques. I'm going to a club tonight, so I chose loose clothes. Beach fashion! Harajuku attracts young people from all over Japan to its crowded shopping streets. Here, the fashions are very individualistic, and so are the people who wear them. It's fun to watch people on the street. Fashions just keep getting younger and younger. I made the headgear myself. The Ginza is famous for its luxury stores, and here the fashions you see reflect more sophisticated tastes. I come here to shop for brand name fashions. On my days off, I try to dress up smartly. Tokyo is one of the centers of world fashion. And here, behind the scenes, is how these designs are made. Patrick Ryan and Mami Yoshida created their Yab Yum label about 10 years ago.
Our look is futuristic, rather more low-key than most current trends.
I'm always searching for fresh ideas, for things no one has ever seen before. The Theater Products brand approaches fashion as performance. Their spring and summer lines have a nature theme this year. Theater Products was founded just 3 years ago by 2 young fashion designers. When I'm designing, I imagine how the clothes will look on someone walking in the street.
What we're really hoping is that more people will get the chance to see our designs.
This is Tokyo, where fashion is fun and out on the street for everyone to see and enjoy.
Young and hip, Tokyo fashion is always noticeable on the runways and in the streets. I'm Peyton Rosenzweig with a taste of culture.
Thanks, Peyton. Speaking of fashion, when you think of traditional Japanese fashion, you think of one thing.
Japanese kimono.
Absolutely. And there is a concerted effort going on in Japan right now to make sure this historic and beautiful fashion statement doesn't fall by the wayside. Here's more from our friends at the Office of the Consulate General of Japan.
This is a daily ritual for Tatsuo Sekine, praying for good business in a dying industry. The traditional kimono, as intricately tied to Japanese culture as they are to the women who wear them. Each made-to-order kimono costs upwards of $10,000 US. All this, explains Sekine, is a work of 23 Japanese craftsmen done in the traditional old ways. An exquisite end result. But in this recession, this luxury niche market is not just trying to stay afloat, but avoid extinction. We're trying so hard, says Fumiko Sekine, who works here with her husband. But Western clothes are easy to wear. Kimonos may not catch up with the speed of how young people live. We have to survive by getting new customers, but very few new customers come in now. This Tokyo department store says the way to grab new customers, change the kimono, discard the old craftsmanship to lower the price. This kimono costs the equivalent of about $1,000 US. Compare that to a high-end kimono, which can cost 10 times as much. The difference, this one is stitched together in Vietnam. It's not made to order. You just pull it off the rack and put it on. A few adjustments to the lower quality silk and you have a sort of traditional kimono. In any situation, we try to come up with fresh ideas to adjust to the situation, says Tobu employee Kayo Kurihara. Shopper Chisato Ogino says this meets her tightening budget and her need for a little culture. Many young people can start here, says Ogino, then develop an interest in the traditional kimonos later. But the traditional shops may not be here later. Sekine's father opened this kimono shop more than 80 years ago, just before the Great Depression. It endured that and World War II. The Sekines hope to pass the business on to their son if they can only manage to survive this recession. Kyung-la, CNN, Tokyo.
Okay, class, tonight's lesson is sake. Sake is meant to be sipped, not gulped from small little cups.
We call it choco.
These are choco, and sake is poured into the choco from a ceramic flask.
We call it dokuri.
Tokuri. Again, most sake these days served chilled, but you might want to try it the old-fashioned way, warmed. Most restaurants these days use a dispenser to keep the sake at just the right temperature, but it's easy enough to do without the technology.
If you like warm sake, place the tokuri in the almost boiling water,
Right.
put in the couple of minutes. Please don't overheat it. It destroys the flavor.
It's very important. Sake was always served in the old days in a little wooden box called a masu. Now, if you are very fortunate, you just might order your sake and the host will bring it out in a little wooden box. The server will begin to pour the sake, overflowing from a little glass on the inside, and he will fill the masu and the glass completely up. This is a wonderful and traditional expression of your host's generosity. And you have been completely generous, as you always are. Our thanks to our host, Chef Jonathan of the beautiful Bluefin Restaurant. And with that, we will say kanpai.
Kanpai.
Kanpai, which is cheers. Thanks for being with us for Sushi 101.